So I'm very pleased to welcome Stine Nilsen. She is the co-artistic director of the Candoco dance company from London. Candoco is going to open the festival, and I'm very pleased and glad about it. And especially because I saw this piece, Set Reset from Trisha Brown's, and I was like deeply touched, and that was the moment when I said, wow, I just have to have Candoco at the Steps Festival. Can you tell us why is this piece in your repertoire? How does it came?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so the piece Set Reset by Trisha Brown Dance Company was originally made in 1983, and it was danced by amazing performer Stine Petronio, Trisha Brown herself. It's one of those key iconic pieces in the history of modern dance. And when Pedro Machado and myself took over as artistic co-directors of Candoco, we wanted to really establish, really cement Candoco as a dance company. And I think that this we wanted to do. The dancers has always been very flamboyant and charismatic in Candoco's history, and often we have relied on theatrical work as well as more dancey work. And this piece, Trisha Brown's piece, is an abstract piece of dance. It is just movement for the sake of seeing the geometry of the space, for seeing the geometry of the body in space, and but very playful. And I think we wanted to say that if disabled dancers should be part of the history of dance, we should take a piece that is iconic in the history of dance and make this work with a cast that is different from what it had originally. Originally it just had non-disabled dancers in it, and with our cast, what it would do would illuminate and show something even more fundamental about what this piece is about.
What do you mean by fundamental, what this piece is about?
I think that this piece is a lot about the principles of dance, the principles of space. So Trisha Brown was interested in, well, she herself was like this kind of rebel and revolutionary in contemporary dance. She took, she really focused on what the body could do. And so ultimately, the principles that she's working with is weight and swinging and folding, and how the body swings and folds in relationship to space and geometry in space. And we saw this with non-disabled dancers, so we saw a language that was maybe recognizable as it needed to be with 2 arms and 2 legs. But actually, the principles of how to relate to spatial directions, the principles of how to swing and fold and let the weight make action-reaction happen in the body. This doesn't just belong to someone with 2 arms and 2 legs. It belongs to anybody that can move. So when you try it with someone, one of the dancers at the moment uses a wheelchair. So what you see is the rotation of the chair. You see the circular geometry, both in the chair, but also then translated into the body. Or for example, when one of the dancers uses crutches, you see the elongation, the extension of the direction in space. So I think that by having different performers would maybe both use different tools and has different body physical starting points, what it does, it makes us see the movement principle or the use of space, not just in one way, but in 2 or 3 different ways. So they amplify each other and they complement each other.
So, Stine, because when I saw the piece, it's like some time ago, it was at the British Dance Platform. Since then, you changed the cast.
Yes.
And I saw the new cast, and they are beautiful dancers, you know. So are all the dancers going to be in the piece of Set and Reset?
Yes, so all 7 dancers in the
all
piece
7 dancers are going to be in, and the wheelchair as well.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah.
So I'm very much, I have some ideas in my mind how this is going to be like, but I'm very much looking forward really to see the result at the festival.
Yes, and I think that working with Abby Yeager, who is the assistant from Trisha Brown Dance Company who's helped restage it, it's been really exciting. She says it's really for her as well, made her again dig deeper into what are these principles. What is it that Trisha was interested in when she made this piece? What are the connection between people? What are the connection in the body? What are the connections in space? And how are those therefore materialized, visualized slightly differently with with different dancers. But again, that it doesn't compromise on what the quality of the work is. It doesn't compromise on the principles. It just gives us more variety in how we see them. The Trisha Brown, the settimane set, has a very particular vocabulary. So all the dancers, regardless of their disability or not disability, had to learn the same movement material, but they had to then also make sure that that movement material worked in their bodies. And then what happens is that when you then restage the piece, you allow for some improvisation and some play. So the language is shared, but how you speak the different words, how you create the different movement then allows for the individuals to come and create their movement. And therefore, I think what this does, it really makes for Candoco, which we have different words from the dancers' bodies, we have different expressions from the dancers' bodies. It means that they are not suppressed or put back or not included, but actually they form really part of what the fabric of the work is, what the look of the work is.
So in discussion we choose, like as the second work for the evening, we choose Thomas Howard. There is again my questions, why did you ask Thomas to work with the company?
We were really taken by Thomas's work. We went to see him quite a few years ago before we asked him to come and work with the company. He works with improvisation, live improvisation on stage, but very closely grounded in a set of rules and tasks that he has developed. So similar to Trisha Brown, he works with geometry in space and the composition of space, and he also works on articulations in the body. Very clearly guided by specific tasks. So we felt that he would both teach the dancers something very clear about the discipline and the kind of work that you have to put in to spend time on very minute articulations and really developing how the body can move differently, as well as allowing some agency from them and ownership from them to in the moment make decisions around the composition in the space and the composition in relation to each other. And so it felt very exciting as a company that is very much focusing on the individual input and how the group can work together, and that the voices of the dancers should be strong, to work with a choreographer that actually in the moment of being on stage allows for these voices to be heard, to be seen, to make an impact in the moment. Felt there was a very clear clear mix, someone we were really proud to work with.
So the reason why I asked you as a company to really have this couple, let's say, or this double bill, is because Thomas told me once, Thomas Howard, he told me that he got inspired by Trisha Brown, and she was the reason why he started a career. So to me, it's like a gift to have them like both on stage, or to have their work both on stage. There's another question I would like to ask you, because I have a personal meaning that diversity is going to be the future in our society. So Candoco, it's like a beautiful example, an artistic example to show the society that diversity can be lived and that high quality art is made by abled and disabled people. What do you think? Is the future gonna be diverse?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. I think the future is going to be diverse.
And why?
And why? Because it is the only way for us to keep expanding and to fight the curiosity that fuels what artists do. I think that, I think artists are inherently very curious, and actually artists do look for difference as much as they might look for unison or wanting to find something in common. I think what fuels us is when we have difference and we have therefore questions, and we have to question what it is that we're doing, or even have to justify why we're doing something, and therefore the diversity that is created by actually very actively bringing different dancers into the room creates a very practical starting point for these differences to absolutely influence. So we see this when the choreographers come in. It makes them think about their practice. The choreographers that come in, the collaborators that come in, they leave Candoco with another thought of their...
So would you say that you are inviting choreographers, and in the first moment they might be afraid.
I think they are definitely slightly nervous.
So
as to what is it gonna be for them?
Yeah.
What is the reality gonna be? One thing is
Because
the idea, and the other thing is the reality.
they might change their like normal way to work. So what is it for people just out in the society? Because I think people are afraid of disabled people. Do you think do you understand that they are afraid?
Yes, I think it's a very human reaction to wonder how someone else functions, how they work. And I think often when I speak to other people and they say, when I meet a disabled person, I don't know what to say to them. Do I need to ask them about what their story is? Do I need to find out why they are disabled? And I always say, why do you have to ask that question? Why is that important to you? And I think in the dance studio, it's almost like we don't have to ask that question because we are all there to move, to dance. And so yes, we find out the stories or we find out why, but it is not our first common point. So it's true that out in society, when we first see someone next to us, all we see is the first label or the first appearance. And if that appearance is very different from us, if they use a wheelchair, if they use a crutch, or if they speak sign language rather than a verbal language, or if they don't see us, I think we get stuck on this first layer of that person, not considering whether they are a mum or a sister or a brother or a daughter, or all the other human elements that we might ultimately be able to connect to. And I think,
how can you break this?
Yeah.
What would you suggest? Well, I'm telling you dialogue. So
dialogue.
I would always say to people, just talk to them. And once you start to talk or to go into interaction, you're going to forget about the disability. Would you agree on that?
Completely. I think dialogue and if anything, I think collaboration and dialogue is at the heart of what Candoco does. And I think it is the key to breaking down these preconceptions of with the fear factor that we find. Sometimes and maybe it's also to tell people that maybe the first thing they should talk about the weather rather than say what's wrong with you or how did you, what's your story. And I think maybe this is the thing, maybe by talking about what our worries are, how do we talk to each other, we should just talk to each other. But sometimes it is that first question or the first hello that is the most difficult, which is why I think that to see more visual imagery of many different people, so to have great pictures of dancers, of Paralympians, of disabled people around in TV and media everywhere, will also help break down our fear of that first step, to see difference, not as difference, but as part of the everyday life. And then the thing about communication, how do we communicate? So this goes also beyond disability to different languages, with the refugees crisis, with everything. It is how do you make the first way in? And I think sometimes that to have another activity that we focus on, rather than just on each other, helps us starting to find the communication.
So we do hope that people are just going to start to communicate and that you're going to be an inspiration for that. Thank you very much for coming to us.
Thank you for inviting us. We're very happy
to see you soon.
Thank
you, Stine.
Thank you.